Revered Swami Chandikanandaji Maharaj, respected elders, sisters and brothers, Om Namo Narayanaya. On behalf of our President, Revered Swami Swatmaramanandaji Maharaj, and officials of the Center, I extend a warm and loving welcome to you to this evening's satsang. And I respectfully request Revered Swami Chandikanandaji Maharaj to deliver the discourse this evening.
Ajnanatimirandasya jnananjanashalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Om Bhatram no Pivatayamana. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sisters and brothers, loving Om Namo Narayana to each one of you. Religions of the world tell us that God is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. If that is the case, then it follows that there must be various names given to this God. And so we find in Hinduism what is known as the Sahasranama. 1,000 names of God. But actually they are not names as such, they are epithets. Epithets are terms that are used to describe certain attributes of a person or a thing. So in Hinduism we have these Sahasranamas dedicated to each of the Panchadevatas. And the Panchadevatas are Ganesha, Shiva, Surya, Vishnu or Narayana, and Durga. Those are the 5 devatas, the main deities that Hindus worship. Now if there are Sahasranama, if there is a Sahasranama to Vishnu, then there also has to be a Sahasranama to his avatars. And indeed there is a Sahasranama to Ram and there is a Sahasranama to Krishna. And it follows then that there will also be a Sahasranama to Sri Ramakrishna. And indeed there is one. It is called the 1,000 Glories of Sri Ramakrishna. This evening, we are going to touch on some of these epithets that have been given to Sri Ramakrishna. Some of them appear in the Sahasranama, but we're going to refer especially to the Pranam mantras. The Pranam mantra is a mantra of salutation. And in Sri Ramakrishna's case, there are 3 popular Pranam mantras, and one of them is most popular, and that is the one that we repeat here on a Saturday afternoon. Stapakaya Dharmasya Sarva Dharma Swarupine Avatar Varishtaya Ramakrishnaya Te Namah. This mantra has become very popular and very important because it has been given to us by a rishi. And the rishi was brought down from the Sapta Rishi Mandala by none other than Sri Ramakrishna. And this rishi is none other than Swami Vivekananda. When he returned from America the first time in 1897, a few months after his return, in May of that year, he was invited by Kalipada Ghosh. And Kalipada was a great pal of Girish Chandra Ghosh. Both of them were drinking. And Sri Ramakrishna actually cured Kalipada of his drinking habits. So Kalipada invited Swami Vivekananda to do installation of Sri Ramakrishna on the altar at his place. So on the appointed day, Swami Vivekananda and others, as brother disciples as well as his own disciples, they all went to Kalipada's house, which is not far from where tomorrow's cricket is going to be played, not far from Eden Gardens. And having gotten there, they all refreshed themselves in the nearby stream, and Swami Vivekananda smeared his forehead and his upper arms with ash, and then they went to the house of Kalipada. And when they got there, Swami Vivekananda was very pleased by what he saw. Everything was set. There was a place for everything, and everything was in place. And this is one of the marks of a devotee, this attention to detail. And very often we find people who do worship, perform worship, but things are scattered over. It's how scattered the mind is. Anyhow, so Swami Vivekananda then took his seat before the altar, performed the puja the same way as we do here, the 16 items, and at the end of the puja he wrote to offer Dandavat Pranam to Sri Ramakrishna. And as he did that, from his lips rolled the mantra, Sahapakaya Dharmasya Sarva Dharma Sarupini, etc. So that is why this mantra is important. Thousands of years before that, a similar thing happened. Vishwamitra, who was a king, decided to take on asceticism so that he could show Vashishta, Rishi Vashishta a point. See, Vashishta had humiliated Vishwamitra, and he now was determined to show him a point, and he also had seen the power, spirituality over that king. In fact, his palace, he handed over the palace to his son, who was Harishchandra, and he repaired to the forest and performed austere tapasya. And as time went on, he began to gain certain powers, certain siddhis, and he became quite powerful. In the meanwhile, Vashishta had a disciple whose name was Satyavrata. And Satyavrata wanted to enter into heaven, body and all. And that is an unheard of thing. Impossible for that to happen. It's against the law, the natural laws. So he approached Vashishta, and Vashishta said, "No worries, will I do this for you? Just go your way." So he went on his way and looking for somebody who accede to his desire. And finally came to the ashrama of Vishwamitra. And he told Vishwamitra the story, and Vishwamitra now found a chance to show Vashishta a point. So he then started this mighty big Homa. Now, when you perform Homa from the Yajurveda, there are a certain number of priests that are prescribed for certain types of Homa. So there should have been a number of priests here. But Vishwamitra chose not to have them for two reasons. One was he didn't want any opposition from the other priests. And secondly, because he wanted to show Vashishta how powerful he is. So he began with the Homa, and soon we find that Satyavrata began to rise, and soon he took on speed and went speedily to heaven. Indra in heaven were perturbed by this. They would not allow this to happen. And as soon as Satyavrata reached there, they pushed him down again. And he started coming down at great speed. And Vishwamitra didn't have the power to stop that. Nor did he send this man up with a parachute. So he was coming down at tremendous. But Vasishtha was able to see this. There's always a link, the guru and the disciple. He was able to see this, and he called his disciples together, they chanted and so forth. And Satyavrata then remained halfway between heaven and earth. And up to this day, we see him, the Southern Cross, the strongest, the most powerful star in the Southern Cross, it is said, is Satyavrata, who was also given the name of Trishankar. So now Vishwamitra realizes that Vasishtha is more powerful after all. So he comes to offer his salutation to Vasishtha, and as he leans forward to prostrate before him in golden letters, he is Tat Savitur Prenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhima Yo Yo Prachodaya. That is the mantra he saw. That is the original Chitur mantra. Later on, Om Bhur added, because it was so powerful in its original form that people were starting to get liberation. So these prefixes were added so that people could remain on Bhu, on earth, in the intermediaries, or in heaven, but not past. Right. So that is the story of Vishwamitra, and of course, before that, we saw how this mantra, Pranam mantra to Sri Ramakrishna came. So let us look at the mantra itself. Sthapakaya cha dharma. Sthapakaya, the dative case in Sanskrit means to, towards, for. So to whom? To the dharma sthapaka. Who is the dharma sthapaka? Dharma sthapaka, or the establishment of religion, is given only to an avatar. Not just anybody could be called dharma sthapaka. Sri Ramakrishna, a dharma sthapaka. Indeed, okay. Firstly, this was declared by none other than the Bhairavi herself, Bhairavi Brahmani. He said that from her experience and from her knowledge of the scriptures, he was indeed an avatar. But that was not enough. He had to get more proof. One swallow does not a summer make, they say. So she invited these great authorities in spiritual matters. One of them was Vaishnavacharan, and the other was Gauri Pandit, who were very learned Pandits in these days. And they came and they observed Sri Ramakrishna, and they declared that he was avatar. In saying, calling him a dharma sthapaka, then, is quite in order. Then, sarva dharma sarupa, the embodiment or the manifestation of all religion. He practiced, Ramakrishna practiced all religions that were present at that time. The main ones being, of course, Hinduism, Christianity, and Islam. By the way, referring to that, We must remember that an avatar only comes for the re-establishment of religion. So, what was the reason for Sri Ramakrishna's advent? Consider. This time, Hinduism or Dharma was being attacked by both Christians and Muslims. From the north, it was the Muslims. And coming in through the were the Christians, the English, who had established their headquarters, their capital in Bengal itself, in Calcutta. It was to that all religions were equal, that Hinduism was not inferior to Christianity, that Sri Ramakrishna incarnated on earth. So going back then, yes, he practiced all these religions and he was able to say at the end of it that as many as there are religions, there are parts of God. In the Bible, Christ says, "In my Father's house are many mansions," meaning the same thing. Sarva Tapakaya cha dharmasya sarva dharma surupine avatar. Avatar Varishta is the most outstanding, foremost of avatars. That he is called that. You see, when Ram incarnated, he came to destroy the lust as we see personified in Ravana. Krishna he came to destroy the greed that was present and manifest in Duryodhana and others. Sri Ramakrishna came to destroy both of them, both of those at the same time, lust and greed. And we know that was his constant call. Be aware of lust and greed. How many concepts? And apart from that, Sri Ramakrishna also had the compassion of Buddha and the love of Christ. That way he was a complete avatar, and therefore called Avatar Varishta. Now, when we say this mantra, we have to be very careful, because if we say it wrongly, we give a different connotation altogether to the mantra. And by this, let me illustrate to you. In Sanskrit, there are certain rules. And one of the rules is that when two vowels, similar vowels come together, the one following the other, then there is the elongation of that vowel. An followed by another word starting with a, then we'll get a. So, if we say cha, cha is a short a. Stapakaya cha. And the next word is dharmasya. If we say stapakaya cha dharmasya, we are saying stapaka cha adharmasya. That Ramakrishna had come to establish irreligion or unrighteous. And again, sarva dharma. The sarva dharma, it becomes all forms of irreligion. Then Ramakrishnaya te namaha. Not Ramakrishna, yate namaha. If you say yate te namaha, it makes no sense whatsoever. So our friends, to be very careful of our pronunciation. So that is the first of the pranam mantra. The next one is sarvadha tapakastva. Sarvadharma Sarupaka Acharya Na Mahacharya Ramakrishna Te Nama. You probably have heard that. And this mantra was given by Swami Avedananda. Swami Avedananda was a great intellectual. So great was he that when he spent 3 months at Kailas ashram in Rishikesh, the head of that ashram, the abbot, he was so impressed by him that he said that he is a person from out of. All right, so he gives us this mantra, Sarva Dharma Sthapakas. The first one said, Dharma Sthapaka. Yeah, he says, Sarva Dharma Sthapaka. He makes it more clear that Sri Ramakrishna came to establish all the religion in their right places and give them the recognition that was due to them. Sarva Dharma Sthapaka, Sarva Dharma Sarupaka is the same as the one before. Then, Acharya Nam Mahacharya, the greatest teacher, the greatest world teacher among world teachers. Now we had other great teachers. We had Shankaracharya, the great Advaitan. We had Ramanuja, the great Vasishtha Advaitan. And we had Madhavacharya, the great Advaitan. They were also great. And they are recognized even to this day. So what is it that makes Sri Ramakrishna Acharya Nam Mahacharya? And it is this, that while those other great acharyas stuck to their philosophy only, to the exclusion of others, even running down others, Sri Ramakrishna accepted all. And he actually practiced all as well, as part of his Sarva Dharma Swarupa. He practiced all. And he was able to say that each of them is as truthful as the other. So that makes him Sarva Dharma Acharya Nam Acharya. The next one is, next pranam mantra is Niranjana Nityam Anantarupam. That first line only. Niranjana. Anjana, taint, blemish, blame. Niranjana. So Sri Ramakrishna is now said to be free of blame, of taint, so forth. What about the avatars before him? Krishna and Ram, for example. Were they tainted? They were not. But in the eyes of those with limited intellect, they were. In Ram's case, of course, even up to this day, people blame him for putting Mother Sita through that fire ordeal. There are also those who said that he was very deceitful, in that he hid behind a tree and shot Bali. In Krishna's case, again we find two instances where he is blamed. The one is when he gets off the chariot with his Sudarshan, ready to let it loose against Bhishma, despite the fact that he said that he was only going to be the charioteer. But he had his purpose for doing that. It was actually to encourage Arjuna to do that which was right. Then the other taint that people say, or that people place on Sri Krishna, is that he encouraged Yudhishthira to speak a lie, to say that Ashwatthama, Ashwatthama was dead. And that wasn't right. According to people, he shouldn't have done that. God incarnate. How could he say such? So those are the blemishes that are there against those other two avatars. In the case of Sri Ramakrishna, there is no blame, no blemish whatsoever. No one could actually point at him. Then Niranjanam Nityam, everlasting, always present, immortal, as Brahman incarnate, definitely that Nityam, everlasting. And Ananta Rupa, having many manifestations. People saw Sri Ramakrishna as their own. The most outstanding when what's his name? Mathur Babu actually sees Sri Ramakrishna at one point as Madhukali and as Shiva at the other point. Then there are other devotees who came to him with their Ishtadevatas being Krishna, Ram, even Christ. And when they bowed before him and looked up again, it was their deity. Imagining, no, not imagination, total manifestation of the deity, their deity before their eyes. For he is that Ananta. Other epithets of Sri Ramakrishna in just these three pranam mantras. And when we read this, we should actually be seeing this, or feeling, not just empty mantras that very often we just do it as part of the service. But that's not the way that worship is done. The sadhava comes into the shrine, one has to look at the deity before prostrating. But very often we find people come in one big hurry, prostrate, get up, and go and take this. Well, there's no relationship that built between oneself and one's deity. And so also these mantras are being repeated, one has to see the deity. So these are the few thoughts that I want to share with you this afternoon, and it is hoped that we can make use of this information in our daily lives. Shri Ram Krishna Arpanastu.